Naruto Shippuden is an anime I watched as part of my ongoing attempt to have never dropped an anime. If you've ever heard me talk about Naruto on stream, you might be surprised to find out I never actually finished watching it, and that is because I was a manga reader who dropped the anime because I got sick of all the filler. The show's been over for about 5 or so years now, so I'll just throw up a rare spoiler warning. The major draw of Naruto to me was always kind of the characters, so we might as well start with talking about Naruto Uzumaki himself, who is my absolute favorite anime protagonist and is genuinely one of the best handled anime main characters, period, across all genres, but especially the Shonen Battle series. The Naruto at the beginning of the original series, this sort of like bratty, depressed, lonely, attention-seeking child is not the same character who shows back up at the beginning of Shippuden, who is sort of like reconnecting with his old friends and is more mature, but not all the way developed. But that character is different than the Five Kage Summit's idealistic diplomat, who's a different character than the overworked adult Naruto we see at the very end of the series and going on into Boruto. He has such a long but very naturally developing character across the entire series where he feels like a real person, and you going through the journey with him, feel him turn from child to teenager to adult in a way that I genuinely don't know if I could name another character who went through such a clean, well-handled development. Naruto is also not the only good character in the series, although several characters do tend to fall to the wayside. One character I'd like to actually defend real quick is Hinata, because I see a lot of people saying that Hinata wasn't a well-handled character. But speaking of Naruto, although not to the same extent, the sort of mousy girl who couldn't get through a single sentence, it progressed towards the end of the war arc to a character who literally slapped some sense into Naruto and told him to get his shit together, although in more polite terms. There is a very clean development to Hinata that you see her go through over time through the aids of Naruto and her teammates. And Hinata and Naruto are not the only well-handled characters, of course. There's also Itachi, who we'll probably talk about more. There's Shikamaru, who goes through his own, albeit understated, but very existent arc. And of course, Pain is probably one of the greatest anime villains I've ever encountered. Although, for as many good characters as there are in Naruto, there are probably even more characters that are just sort of left to the wayside and abandoned. And there really isn't much to be said about them because Kishimoto doesn't super do anything with them. Like, Ino doesn't really go through anything. Tenten not having anything to do is like a joke in the community. And Rock Lee hasn't really been touched since the original series. Post-time skip, he doesn't do anything. He's just kind of there, and then he watches Guy get into a fight. He's just completely left to the wayside, like so many other characters. And Naruto has a very large cast that constantly keeps introducing more and more characters. But it doesn't handle most of them very well and tends to just abandon most of them. Another character that gets a lot of shit is Sakura, and what I will say about Sakura is people will say that she's useless, and people will say that she isn't very well handled and she's underdeveloped. And partially this is correct. The thing about Sakura is that she's mostly a support character, and they do not get any respect. I've actually seen people say Karin is a completely useless member of Team Hebi when she is the only member of Team Hebi other than Sasuke that does goddamn anything. Like, she might not be in the trenches fighting, but her skills as a healer and as a sensor type make 90% of anything Team Hebi do relies almost exclusively on Karin. Fucking compared to that, fucking Water Shark Boy, whose name I don't remember, does absolutely nothing. And then Jugo's only useful very briefly to lend Sasuke Sage Chakra at the very end of the series. Sakura is useful anytime medical ninjutsu is required, which is honestly surprisingly frequent. That said, what people generally consider as useful is combat usage. And throughout the vast majority of the series, Sakura is not just not helpful in battle, she's actively a liability. Like, during the fight against Sasori, Granny Chio needs to actively control her body to prevent her from fucking dying because Sakura ain't up to snuff to actually fight Sasori. And where Sakura really falls apart is that she is sort of developed as a character, but not personality-wise. She goes through a brief arc where she tries to, like, take out Sasuke, but that lasts for, like, 5 minutes and is quickly forgotten about after that. But her combat skills, which is mostly what people care about, because this is a series targeting towards young boys, are developed in leaps and bounds. And I do mean leaps, because she'll be at, like, 0, and then it'll suddenly go to, like, 10 out of nowhere. Like, in the middle of the war arc, she's basically useless, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when Sasuke shows up, she suddenly develops Tsunade's jutsu just out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden she can summon the fucking slug princess. This just happens because Kishimoto realized that he forgot to give Sakura consistent power-ups like 90% of the other cast, so he needs to just drop all of this shit on you immediately because he didn't put any actual attention into her character. And while we're talking about other poorly handled characters, Sasuke is a complete goddamn nightmare of a character. He's handled fine up until the point where Itachi dies, and then that is when it goes horrifyingly off the rails. It seems like Kishimoto very early on decided Sasuke has to be the final battle of the manga, and he needed to keep Sasuke on the opposite side of the Leaf Village the entire time, but couldn't think of an actual way to do it. So Sasuke's motivations just ping-pong wildly back and forth to place him just conveniently wherever Kishimoto needed him to be at that exact moment. Now, don't get me wrong. Technically, every character is placed on whatever side the creator wants at any given moment, but with Sasuke, it's so entirely transparent that the author is pushing him in a direction just to keep him separate from Naruto and the other cast so it can all build towards the ending conflict. And it's not natural at all, and it makes it seem like Sasuke just goes through a fucking 2-year-long manic episode. Sasuke is probably the worst handled character in the entire show, but I wouldn't even necessarily call him the worst character in the show. That probably goes to Obito Uchiha, who is completely fucking useless and has no business being in the series at all. Obito functions totally fine as sort of a flashback character that explains where Kakashi got his Sharingan, and to that point, I'm fine with that. But the Obito throughout the course of the show spends 99% of the entire series pretending to be Madara Uchiha, and then once Madara Uchiha comes back to life, is summarily replaced as the main antagonist by Madara Uchiha, which makes you wonder, why the fuck was Obito not just Madara Uchiha the entire fucking time? He doesn't even do anything, really, after the whole Madara incident. He, gives Kakashi his Sharingan, right? Twice. Once is a fucking ghost. That's a thing they introduced just randomly, is fucking ghost chakra. Would have been real convenient if Jiraiya had shown up to give his fucking ghost chakra to everyone else to explain how fucking Pain's multiple bodies work, wouldn't it have been? You could have just replaced him the entire time with Madara, and since we're already establishing that Kakashi's developing the Mangekyo, you could have just given Kakashi the fucking Mangekyo. He's such a waste of a character and waste of a screen time, and he doesn't add anything to the narrative. And speaking of characters that don't add anything to the narrative, let's talk about a character that actively takes away from the narrative. Now, let me be clear about Kaguya Otsutsuki, okay? Because here's the thing. I kind of love her, right? I love her design. I love her power set. The ability to phase between multiple realities. That's fucking awesome. She's super cool, all right? She's gorgeous, and I love the sort of complicated relationship where she has with her sons, where she loves them, but she feels betrayed by them, and she's understandably upset about getting sealed away. It's such an interesting character, and she would have been an amazing villain in a different series. But as it stands, this is an entire series about ninjas, and then out of suddenly nowhere, goddamn aliens show up. And it is such a colossal fucking misstep. It is so out of place. And it's not like they don't build to Kaguya and like mention her and the Sage of the Six Paths, but it's not well led into. It still feels like it gets pulled out of nowhere because it kind of does, right? Like they start taking over Madara, they start beating Madara in the fight, and then all of a sudden Black Zetsu shows up and just pulls out another bigger threat. So even though I think Madara is a fucking terrible, boring villain, the fact that Kaguya just completely nullifies the purpose of his existence in the plot, just out of nowhere, is so terrible and mismanaged. Like, Kaguya is cool, but she is such a misstep in the series. Naruto would have been a genuinely better anime, genuinely better manga, for the record, if instead of Kaguya, we had cut Obito entirely. We had resolved the fucking Sasuke plotline either earlier or led into the resolution immediately afterward, and just had Madara as the main antagonist, because we were already starting to push back Madara. In fact, the problem is that Madara gets almost defeated like 3 fucking times, and then they have to keep giving him random power-ups. You could just stop giving him random power-ups, and you wouldn't have to keep writing in fucking aliens and Sage of the Six Path chakras. If Kishimoto had just stopped, it would have been so much better. But let us briefly talk about who I think is like the real stars of the villainy show, right? We're not talking about Obito/Toby. We're not talking about Madara. We're not talking about Kaguya. We're not talking about Danzo. The fucking Danzo was such a waste of a goddamn character. So much buildup with the introduction of Sai and like bringing into Danzo and his organization and his foundation, right? And then they just feed him to fucking Sasuke's rage boner. And it's like, look at Sasuke, he killed Danzo. And it's like, cool. I would have been great if fucking Sai was there for that. Or we later find out that Kabuto has a relation to Danzo. Would have been great to have brought Kabuto into that whole plot line, wouldn't have? Nope, just feed him to Sasuke's rage boner. Anyway, the real villainous stars of the show are the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki are the coolest evil organization in any fucking anime. Their theme song is awesome. Their fucking black trench coats with the red clouds, absolutely iconic. Each member is unique. Each member is an army unto itself. They are all competent. They work in 2-man teams, so we get to see them bounce off of each other, and they all manage to genuinely bring something new and interesting to the table. And every time the Akatsuki are on the scene, it's basically an event. What's more is the organization has such an interesting backstory, what with the Land of Rain and the establishment based on like Yahiko and Nagato and Konan, and how they were all trained by Jiraiya. So like there's this like cool foundation, and it also leads into like themes throughout the series about like the concepts of war and peace and the ending cycles of like violence and hatred. And them being war orphans trained by foreign soldiers that they start using their powers to like retake their homeland is one, adds to the greater narrative and themes, but also creates an understandable and sort of like interesting, relatable backstory. The Akatsuki, as an organization, are a sort of organization that you can understand what their goals are, like the goals of peace and such forth, even if you can't necessarily agree with their methods. This is, of course, ruined because we know that they're, like, fucking being manipulated by, like, Toby and fucking Black Zetsu, but I want you to genuinely ignore all of the fucking war arc, right? Pre-war arc, the Akatsuki are fucking amazing, all right? And we know that they're serious business because we've already seen Kisame and Itachi from the previous series. And then the show just opens up with Deidara and Sasori just dropping into the fucking sand village. And the show literally opens with a bang because within like the first 3 episodes, Deidara fucking drops a nuke on the fucking sand village and kidnaps Gaara, who has previously been established to be one of the most dangerous, powerful characters in the series. Like Gaara is like a fucking Jonin level. Even in the previous series, Gaara was like a fucking Jonin level combatant, and now he's like reached Kazekage status. And he's just immediately dispatched by a single member of the Akatsuki. And the opening of the show immediately establishes that the Akatsuki are a threat. And they were a background threat in the previous series, but this is like, no, this is our active threat. This is what we're doing. The Akatsuki are here. Everyone, you fucking hold on to your seats. You're about to get your asshole blown out. And then it moves into the sort of like the zombie brothers. You got Kakuzu and Hidan, who are partnered together because they're both goddamn immortal. And that arc is really good also because it helps it helps flesh out the world, explaining the concepts of like shape and nature chakra, and presents this like concept of the Rasengan being an incomplete jutsu. So it sort of acts to a way of allowing Naruto to step into the shoes of the fourth Hokage and in a way sort of surpass his father. And it helps establish the world. It helps to develop Naruto as an actual character, but it also allows the show to give its spotlight to sort of like underdeveloped characters. It lets us sort of work on Asuma and to a lesser extent Kurenai, who is also a character not handled all that great. And it lets us sort of like see what Kakashi does outside of his normal team, right? And it manages to do all of this while presenting us, of course, with two interesting, unique members of the Akatsuki. Then we get on to the Itachi arc where Sasuke confronts his brother, and it like all comes into head in this like multi-layered sort of genjutsu battle. And that fucking ending where Itachi looks like he's gonna rip Sasuke's eye out and Sasuke can't fucking do anything about it and just boop, pokes him right on the head. A sort of a recollection of them when they were brothers way back in the Leaf Village. One, it's a beautiful end to a character, and also the reveal, and I'm a little shaky about who does this, but like the reveal that Itachi was the double agent the entire time, because we knew all the way dating back to the original Naruto series that there was a double agent in the Akatsuki, and the reveal that it was Itachi who has been working for the Leaf Village the entire time as this sort of like Metal Gear Solid-esque spy is fucking brilliant. It's such an interesting plot twist that like recontextualizes the entire series, and it also helps you understand why the Akatsuki had previously failed to sort of like capture Naruto, or why they couldn't do more damage to the Leaf Village. And it's because inherently Itachi was kind of like keeping the reins on their activities. Which then leads us into the best arc in the entire series, which is the Pain arc. Of course, starting off with like Jiraiya's attack on the Hidden Rain village, and they introduce this mystery of like, who is Pain? What is Pain? How does Pain's abilities work? And it demonstrates like the Rinnegan, which is like this most powerful dojutsu that we've ever seen so far. And it does such a great job of really demonstrating to you the power and danger of Pain, this sort of like godlike ninja. This peak of the shinobi world. And it's all done in a way that that gives us a beautiful send-off to the characters of Jiraiya. You kind of know he's gonna die, but his death in the rain to just give like that one little bit of information on how to actually viably take out the leader of the Akatsuki. Shut up. Take out the leader of the Akatsuki is such a heartfelt moment, and like the devastation you see it wreak on characters like Tsunade and Naruto is heartbreaking, almost as heartbreaking as Jiraiya's death itself. And you get to see the devastation that Nagato performs on the Leaf Village, just destroyed in an instant. So many characters killed. The scene where like Pain just drives the nail directly into Kakashi's throat. It does not happen in the anime because you immediately see that he uses Kamui. Whatever. It's a powerful scene in the manga. And I think it ends perfectly. One, because it shows Naruto earning the respect of the village. It shows him mastering Sage Mode, something that even his teacher couldn't do. It shows him defeating this unstoppable godly entity. It shows Hinata sacrificing herself for Naruto and Naruto just losing his shit. It introduces like Naruto and his parents and their story, and the whole thing continues on with the themes of like violence and cycles of hatred and pain. The world shall know pain. And how the cycles of pain and the cycles of violence have caused like wars throughout all of time, and vengeance begets vengeance, which is perfectly shown, of course, with the previously done Itachi arc of Sasuke taking vengeance on Itachi. And so it comes down to Naruto staring down Nagato, and the game's won at that point. And instead of continuing on with the cycle of violence, instead of deciding to kill Pain and maybe provoke the wrath of the Rain Village or Konan, Naruto decides to be the bigger person, and he talks him down, and he ends the situation in the most mature possible way. He doesn't do it with violence, but he does it with words, through diplomacy, literally putting his money where his mouth is, and breaking the cycle of violence and hatred himself. And the fact that even though many other arcs had also ended with dialogue. But the fact that this arc, where so much was taken from us, was ended with simple words is perfect. It is an absolutely brilliant way to end the arc, and would have been the best probable place to have ended this series. I mean, the Pain arc is truly the sort of like thematic end. You could make an argument that there could be like a Sasuke fight and you could resolve a few couple plot lines, but like the Pain arc would have been the absolute perfect ending to the series. And I think what like not a lot of people remember is that at the point of the Pain arc, Naruto was actually a pretty well-regarded shonen series. And after the Pain arc, when you get into the 5 Kage Summit and you get into the War arc, public opinion of the Naruto series really goes downhill. That's where Sasuke goes fucking batshit crazy. That's where the sort of aliens show up. That's where fucking Madara pulls himself out of his own asshole. Like, the public opinion of the Naruto series drastically fell off after the Pain arc, and I do genuinely believe that is because the Pain arc is peak Naruto. It is the best that the series ever had to offer, and anything else was just downhill from that. But more than that, the War arc, even though the War arc could never live up to how good the Pain arc was, is still kind of a shitty arc anyway. First off, the whole arc sort of brings back this like reanimation jutsu where they bring back all of the old characters we see. And you might think this is cool, but in the reality, the real situation is they just bring back a bunch of old characters who probably had really well handled deaths, and then they just give them worse deaths. So we see them just to kill them again. It's so fucking pointless. While we're talking about fucking reanimating and bringing people back from dead, Pain should not have brought back the Leaf Village after destroying it. It would have had so much more impact for Naruto's forgiveness and the whole themes of the story if everyone was still dead at the end of the Pain arc, because then it means something that Naruto spares him, because as it stands, all Pain really functionally did was just blow up a fucking building. Like, he, blew up a bunch of buildings. Oh no, now they need to rebuild. The resurrection is a real undermining point of the Pain arc, but is not quite as bad as the reanimation jutsu fucking War arc, where they fucking bring back Asuma just to re-kill Asuma, or fucking Haku and Zabuza get brought back just to fucking die in the same way over again. No one gets as good of a death as they got the first time, except for Itachi, because Itachi's awesome. Itachi's awesome, and it's hard to fuck up his character. Genuinely hard to fuck up his character. I think Nagato could have been an interesting character to have brought back also after he died, but then, Kabuto just fucking wipes his mind, and then that whole thing goes to shit. See what I'm saying about, how poorly handled the reanimation part is? And the thing about, post-Pain arc Naruto is, I'm sure there's some people out there thinking, oh, but what about all these cool moments that happen? And yeah, that's the thing. There were cool moments that happened after the Pain arc, but the thing is the overall structure of the narrative, the overall story, even most of the characters, what comes after the Pain arc is just simply not good enough. None of the good moments are good enough to warrant all of the bad things that came post-Pain arc. And what's even more worth noting about the War arc is it's fucking really boring. So the War arc takes place over about a 2-day time period, and it starts in the early 200s. As far as episode count goes, right? And it lasts until the early 400s. Half of this fucking show is the fucking War arc. It's so long. It's just one giant battle that, now keep in mind, there's a lot of filler, right? So cut that in half. Say 100 episodes of one battle. It's one battle for longer than most goddamn anime will ever last. It's so long that it's basically impossible to contain your interest throughout the entire thing. And they just keep pulling power-ups out of their fucking ass every single time. It's awful. It is awful. It is so long. It is so boring. But while we're talking about filler, let's wrap back around to this. Did you know that Naruto Shippuden has a 41% filler rate? 41% of the episodes of this fucking show are not canon to the actual show. There are 500 episodes of the show. Genuinely think about that. Think about how many filler episodes that is. you might as well not even watch half the goddamn show, because nothing you're watching is relevant to anything else you're watching. It's a travesty. It's a crime. And when there are canon episodes, we've got to talk about these flashbacks. Okay, so especially during the 5 Kage Summit, where like Naruto is fighting Sasuke, right? These flashbacks will take place throughout most of the episode. The idea behind anime adaptations is that typically you want to adapt about 2 to 4, but typically around 3. Usually you're going to be 3 chapters per episode. That's going to keep you with the show being relatively manga paced, because simply put, manga chapters are a lot shorter, right? This is assuming you have like a 20 page chapter. So like Naruto. So basically you're going to want to go 2 to 4, right? So Naruto has this habit of adapting like 1 chapter an episode and then just filling the rest with flashbacks. And this is much more prevalent in the center of the show, which is just flashbacks. There is, at one point, 2 episodes dedicated to a single moment where Sasuke and Naruto collide with each other. Like, they fucking exchange Chidori Rasengan, and then we spend 2 episodes on just that collision, and then everything else is flashback. I swear, they managed to adapt 1 chapter in 2 episodes. It is unbelievable. The show becomes genuinely unwatchable at places. Like, it becomes impossible to sit through it because it's just shit you've either seen already or shit that does not matter because it's filler. And even when it's not doing that, we have to talk about how poorly paced all of the episodes are. Like, okay, so when you're writing a chapter, you generally want to sort of leave a little cliffhanger, something to keep the readers interested when the new chapter comes in next week, right? So, for example, there's a scene in the manga where you see Sasuke pushed to the breaking point and Orochimaru pulls himself out of Sasuke's body. And then for a week, right? I remember this, for a week, you just sit there going, holy shit, what's going to happen next? And then the next chapter, bam, Itachi pulls out the Tosca blade, fucking stabs him and seals his ass. And you're like, yo, that's how they did that. This whole event happens in like the middle of an episode during the Itachi fight. Like, Orochimaru rips himself out of Sasuke and then he gets sealed literally within 5 minutes in like the midpoint of the episode. It's like minute 10 into the episode, Orochimaru appears. Minute 15, Orochimaru's gone. So there's like, the pacing of these episodes is created in such a way that there's never any dramatic tension. There's like so poorly paced that even when the show isn't being obnoxious, it's still not being interesting. And what I want to talk about with this specific example is that Naruto is a series with a lot of flaws. But I genuinely believe that as far as the manga goes, I believe there are more pros than cons. I believe that as many issues as arise throughout the series, as awful as the war arc is, I believe that there is enough good in the series. I think the manga is great, genuinely great. And I think that if Kishimoto was allowed more time, was allowed to like sort of like create a better overview, maybe wasn't so burnt out, I think he could have pulled an even better series out of this. I think there is an absolutely amazing, mind-blowing shonen series that would be talked about as one of the greatest of all time without question inside of Naruto. I don't think it exists. I don't think we got there, but I do think that the manga is genuinely great. I think the anime, on the other hand, the Naruto Shippuden anime is a terrible adaptation of a great manga. I think the adaptation itself sucks. The filler, the flashbacks, the pacing, all of it is wrong. So even the parts that were great in the manga are just rendered decent in the anime. And the parts that were weak in the manga are unbearable in this anime. And all of these complaints go completely out the window when we talk about the novel adaptations. Because for some reason, someone decided to adapt the novels, and they did a phenomenal job of doing this. The novels are like the best part of the show. There's the Itachi novel, which I hear might not be entirely canon. I hear it's a loose adaptation. I'm never going to read these fucking novels. I'm going to be honest with you. I could not tell you how well the adaptation was, but I will tell you seeing Itachi's perspective on it was really interesting, and getting this sort of like other side of the Akatsuki is always interesting because, as we've established, the Akatsuki are the best. And then we have the Shikamaru novel, which shows that like the peace that came about at the end of the war arc was a hard-fought battle. And we get to see taking a side away from Naruto, getting to focus on Shikamaru, who almost acts as a sort of like secondary protagonist at times, going on a mission with two, honestly, I kind of like them, Anbu characters, while also sort of developing his relationship with Tamari, which is, I think, a relationship that everyone has been rooting for since Tamari saved his ass all the way back in the original Naruto from person in the Sasuke retrieval arc. I don't remember. Was it like the flute lady? Was it flute lady? Who did he fight? I think it was flute lady, wasn't it? I think it was flute lady. What was her name? Tatsuya? Whatever. Who cares? Anyway, yeah, everyone's been rooting for the Tamari relationship with Shikamaru, and this gives you more to fuel for that fire. More to that, we end with the last 7 episodes, which adapt the sort of like Naruto is about to marry Hinata novel. And these are the best 7 episodes of the entire show. First off, animation, absolutely gorgeous. Second off, we get to experience this sort of like moment with all of these characters that we've seen throughout the course of the series, who we've known to like know and love. We get to see what they're up to, like years down the line, how they're adjusting to this new era, and we get to see them go on their own little quirky adventures. And more to that point, the opening of the Naruto show starts with a bratty, sad, lonely little kid who, although he claims he wants to be Hokage, his main objective, as he tells to Itachi, is, I want to be Hokage so people will recognize me. He really is just like this sad little kid who wants people to acknowledge his existence. He wants people to care about him. And this show ends, Shippuden ends, with Naruto's wedding coming up, and people across the entire village, across the entire world, his friends, coming to acknowledge his existence, to wish him well, because they genuinely love, respect, and care for him. And we get to see these like little kids like looking up to him. We get to see like literally like the Kages coming from other villages being like, well, we've got to go to Naruto's wedding. We all owe Naruto. And all of this like friendship and this relationships are framed with an event, a wedding between Naruto and this woman that he loves, showing that we have progressed from Naruto being this sad, lonely, depressed little kid to a respectable, mature adult who has the recognition, who has the affection of everyone in the world. And if that's not beautiful, I don't know what is. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye.